How to build a chatbot with low-code, no-code options. Well, thanks to one platform, this just got a lot easier. Today, we're going to be talking about VoiceFlow, which is a company that initially was founded to build Amazon Alexa voice applications. But luckily for us, and smart for them, they've pivoted to the AI assistant, AI agent, chatbot space. And with a recent $15 million funding round, they're locked and loaded, ready to design additional features for an already powerful chatbot building platform. Let's take a look and build our first bot. This is the VoiceFlow homepage, which is voiceflow.com. And you can scroll down here and see a preview of the editor, which is basically looks like a bunch of drag and drop cards with various lines connecting the various actions you can do for each of your chatbots. But let's go up and take a look at pricing here for new users coming to the platform. So what's nice is VoiceFlow offers no credit card requiring for the sandbox, which is your basic version to get started here, to understand the editor, to upload some knowledge base sources, have a few agents, and actually use a certain set of monthly AI tokens to get these chatbots up and operational. And 100K actually goes pretty quick, but it's enough for you to build out a few bots and kind of understand the platform to see if it's something you want to invest in with your money. And even the professional tier here, which obviously opens up some extra features, you can get a 14-day free trial. So now if we scroll back up to the top and log in here, I'm going to take you to the dashboard. This is my dashboard here. You can see there are a few bots that I've already created here, and also some templates here, which if you come over on the left-hand side, you have your prototypical SaaS company menu here on the left-hand side. If you click templates, it's going to take you to another tab, which you can click any of these and import into the dashboard. You have the Discord community and help options as well if you have any questions. The bottom right hand corner, we have a VoiceFlow icon here. This is going to open up a chatbot with the help desk for VoiceFlow, and this is them kind of flexing their own product here. So you can click a few buttons in here, kind of open up some conversations, watch instructional videos, all from this chatbot here. Now we're going to create our new assistant. So VoiceFlow, instead of calling these chatbots, they call them AI assistants. So going up to the top right corner here, we click on New Assistant. We enter the name, New Chatbot Demo. And then we have two different types here. And for our purposes and for most purposes here, you're going to click Build an AI Assistant. And if we hover over these various icons, you can see ChatGPT, Web Chat, WhatsApp, Twilio, and then Alexa here, Microsoft Teams as well. Designing for NLU platform gets a little bit more with these natural language processing units and the back end of how VoiceFlow works. That is another tier of experience that is not for this video for sure. So we're going to build our AI assistant, hit continue. The channel here is going to be web chat, which basically means you're going to embed this into a website somewhere. Select language, English, continue. Create assistant. This is going to open up the designer, and you can see kind of the dot matrix grid in the background here. And every new assistant that you create in VoiceFlow is going to give you a basic template here. And you can watch this video here if you want to further understand how some of this stuff works. I usually just delete all of this, hold Shift, delete, and kind of start fresh here. You can click and drag the start button here, but all of your AI assistants are going to start with the start block. It's pretty user intuitive here. If we scroll in and see this circle with a smaller circle in the middle of it, this is going to let you know that you can drag your action lines in and out of this. So if I click and drag and I let go, all of the same actions on the left-hand side here will show up. So we're going to go through these as we build out these chatbots, but the easiest thing that we can do immediately is to go to this talk action and click text. And you can see that this line is already connected to this block here, new block 1. One of the first things that I like to do to kind of aid this conversational design and to organize these blocks is to rename it with my action that I'm about to perform. So we can call this welcome message, delete new block 1, enter text reply. Hello, I am an internal documentation bot. What is your name? Question mark. So the other feature that I really enjoy with VoiceFlow is the ease that it is to quickly test any new block that you generate here. So if we come back to the start button on the left-hand side, start test from here, I click that. We're going to kind of minimize the designer a little bit and open up this dialog window. And we're going to see what happens here. Path not connected. Why did that not work? There we go. So just had to click it again. Hello, I'm an internal documentation bot. What is your name? So you notice it says the conversation is ended here. So I can't type anything here, even though I asked the question, what is your name? And that is because you can see in red here that it's highlighted. There's no connecting path from this welcome message. So there's no actions that are tied onto this. This bot literally does one thing, and it says hello. And it also asks your name, but then it doesn't listen to you. So in order for you to listen, you have to go back to the designer here. You notice one of these action tabs. We have 3 options. We have buttons, we have choice, and we have capture, okay? Which capture is going to listen for the user's response to whatever it is that you are asking it to. So I have asked, what is your name? So here we're going to capture it here. And you can drag this. There's 2 ways to do this. You can have a new block here and drag this to connect them, or you can embed multiple actions in blocks up to a limit, depending on which action you choose here. So I can take capture, I can nestle it right under here. So the default for capture is going to be entire user reply. It's going to save it to a variable, which is last utterance, which is what is the last utterance the user has made to the chatbot here. And because I have asked this person's name, I want to be able to reference this variable later on in the chatbot, both when I'm talking, so as the chatbot to make it a little bit more personal, but also as good practice, because there's a lot of times where you're going to want to save user information and send it to, let's say, a CRM or some lead generation service. So capturing names and emails as you converse with these users is something that you're going to do fairly regularly. So if I take this drop down here, we have some pre-made variables that VoiceFlow has set here. But if I delete last utterance, I say name, you'll see no variables found. If I click this plus, there we go. We've now created a new variable here named name. And to test this to make sure that this is working, okay, I can drag this to a new action. And let's have another talk here and have the reply from the chatbot be the variable. Nice to meet you. Name. Greetings test. So we start our test back again. Hello, I'm an internal documentation bot. What is your name? So you notice the difference here in the bottom right. I can type a response here. If I response my name, Connor. Nice to meet you, comma, Connor. Okay, so we can test that we have a successful test here, that the name variable has been stored in Connor. Now, as I continue and build out this chatbot flow, you can reference this variable in your chats, just like I've done. All right, now that we kind of understand some of the basics here and we understand actions and how to talk to this thing and store variables, let's take a step back and ask ourselves the following question. What are we trying to build here? And for this demo, we're going to build a very basic internal documentation bot, which is how do I take a PDF and start talking to this? Say you are working, for Acme Corporation and you have all of your standard operating procedures on the company. I want to be able to query questions against this document instead of scrolling through and reading through pages and pages and pages and pages. So that is the chatbot that we're going to build here. And the first thing that we need to do in order to do this is to switch over to the knowledge base. So one of the good features of VoiceFlow is it's very easy for you to add your own knowledge base sources and then have the chatbots trained against them. So on the left-hand side, we have designer, we have knowledge base, transcripts, analytics, integration settings. We go to knowledge base. No data sources exist. Upload text, PDFs, URLs, and create a ChatGPT-like agent experience here. We go up to the top right, add a data source, okay? We have URLs, entire sitemap, text, PDF, doc, okay? So I went on to the internet and I found a random standard operating procedure that I'm going to show you here is the engineering department standard operating procedure for the city of Ardmore, Oklahoma, which might be the most boring topic we could have chosen possible to build a chatbot on, but I'm a firm believer in starting with the boring and understanding the concepts. That way you can work towards more exciting, more complex things. So this SOP document just contains various standard operating procedures about the engineering department in this random city in Oklahoma. Okay, it's 65 pages, nothing too crazy, but how do we make this chatbot talk to it? So I've uploaded this PDF here. I have a green check here to let me know that it's been successfully added to the knowledge base. And here we go. Standard operating procedure example PDF was the name of the file. So how do we know whether or not this works? So if we click up at the top right, the preview button, we can ask a question directly to this, what is the loaded knowledge base into this bot. So right now we only have one PDF, so that's the entire knowledge base. But if you added 5 different documents, okay, this question would be targeted at all 5 of them. Okay, you cannot target a specific document in the knowledge base at this time in VoiceFlow. So let's ask a quick question, okay? What is the city inspector's roles and responsibilities? Enter. It's generating a response here. Okay, we get a little excerpt. City inspector's roles and responsibilities include serve as the eyes and ears of the city engineer, inspect all constructions. Okay, so I have a response, and this response makes sense and looks legit. Okay, and I have the sources, and it even shows you some of the text here that I was able to grab from this PDF example. Okay, so how do we query this in the designer in the chatbot? Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to show you, knowledge base. If we click here in the settings, we can choose which large language model we want to use to query this knowledge base. And each one of these, GPT-3 DaVinci, 3.5, and Claude Instance, it depends on what your specific application you're trying to use in order what is the quote-unquote best. I know that, GPT is obviously very popular. The default is Claude for a lot of the VoiceFlow applications. If we scroll here for Claude 1, 2, and GPT-4, we can see that that's only available for paid plans. On the right-hand side, these larger language models here are going to use more tokens. So just keep that in mind when you make these choices. And obviously GPT-4 we know is going to be slower in gaining responses and queries too. So you kind of have to balance this. It's a little bit of art, a little bit of science. Temperature here is the how random do I want my responses, and lower for something like this where we're querying, SOPs. We definitely don't want any of the knowledge base to start making things up as it generates answers. So keeping temperature on the low end here is probably a good idea. Max tokens is obviously something that you can tinker with. If you want, to keep a lot of your responses on the shorter end, you can lower this. I'm gonna bump this up actually to 200. And that's because some of these questions are probably going to get a little bit lengthy. Chunk limit has to do with how, here we go, it says it right here, determines how many data source chunks per document will be passed to the LMM, should be LLM, as context to generate a response, recommended 2 to 3 to avoid too much noise and content and prompt. And this is something that happens on VoiceFlow's backend with the knowledge base and chunking information and getting accurate responses. So I'm going to keep this at 3. Save. Okay. So we have a welcome message. Hello, I'm an internal documentation bot. What is your name? Nice to meet you. Let's add this. What question do you have about our internal documentation? Question mark. We're going to go back to this listen here. And we're going to do the same exact thing that we did before. We're going to make a new variable here, which is user question. No variables found. Does that work? There we go. Okay. So now we're going to go to our AI block. Okay, we have 2 options here. We have set AI and response AI. Set AI is something that you can use in order to dynamically set variables based on the large language model. But for this, we're really just asking the question straight to the knowledge base. So we're going to go to response, name this block, which is knowledge base prompt. Data source here, we have 2 options here. We can choose an AI model or we can choose the knowledge base. So we only want answers to come from our standard operating procedures for this. So we're going to click knowledge base. Then we say enter the user question. You have just received a question about internal documentation on the company. Answer this question based to the best of your ability. Using a friendly tone. Question here. This is where I'm going to say boom. And I'm also going to ask for a format here. Output your response with new line breaks, bullet points, and numbered list to maintain readability. All right. So they're just like before with the knowledge base tab, you also have a preview here, which is going to preview what this prompt is against the knowledge base. So if here you can see I can do a little test and set the value of the user question variable, which is basically what is the question that I'm going to ask. So if we do again, what is the city inspector's roles and responsibilities? Generate. We'll see what the response is here. The chief inspector's main roles and responsibilities include inspecting all construction projects by contractors, developers, and utility departments, inspecting city sites, new infrastructure and repairs. Boom. And you can see, excuse me, that the format here, we added some dashes here and kind of break things up. in order to make it more readable, which is what I asked it to do in the prompt. So it seems to be working. So we want to make sure that we link these up here. We have a welcome message, we have a greetings test, we have a knowledge-based prompt. Let's start it up and see what happens here. Hello, I'm an internal documentation bot. What is your name? Connor. Nice to meet you, Connor. What question do you have about our internal documentation? What is the city inspector's roles and responsibilities? This will be the full response. Here we go. So something important here is this is going to show you the AI response, and KB stands for knowledge base. It shows you the model that we chose. The token multiplier was 1x. This is the total amount of tokens that were consumed based on this query, which is 1802, which you remember the free version of VoiceFlow had 100K tokens here. So this one query here used 1800. So you can imagine as you have multiple back and forths here that you start to use tokens rather quickly. The answer. The city inspector serves as the field representative to the city engineer, their main roles and responsibilities. Boom. So we have an answer. So it seems that our knowledge base upload and query and prompt and connecting them to the chatbot is working. So now the question is, what do we do now? So we've asked a single question and we got an answer, but now we have this red circle again, which is saying, hey, we have nothing here. So we have to set up something that's going to allow the user on the other end to continue to ask multiple questions, basically have a flow here. So we're going to add a new block here, which is question duration block. Do you have any additional questions? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a different listen action here. We're going to go to choice here. Oops, where did that go? Okay, just listen, choice. We're going to embed this into the bottom of this block. Path 1 is going to be yes. Okay. We're going to add another choice. No. Oops. And the other one is fallback. And I'm going to explain what fallback means in a second. Okay. So if they do have another additional question and they just say yes in the chatbot, okay, we're going to say, okay, great. What is your question? Great. What is your question? And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to assume that they're going to answer this question immediately. Okay, so we're going to go back to our listen. We're going to go to our capture. We're going to capture their apply into user question, okay, which will override what we initially asked in this greeting here, okay. And what we can do is we can say, we can connect this flow back to the knowledge base prompt here, okay. And I know that this already looks like a mess here, and there's a way to clean this up. One is we can click on the line here, we can drag it down. So multiple spots here, boom. It's also kind of shooting on the other side here. Let's see, there we go. That makes it look a little better. The other thing I like about VoiceFlow, and something that I've started doing as good practice, is anytime I have a directional flow arrow coming in the reverse direction than left to right, I change the color. So I'm going to change this to red. That way I know that when I look at this, when I zoom out, okay, I know that this is coming back into a different direction here. So let's test this out here. I know I went kind of quick through the choice here, but what it's going to do is it's going to listen for the response to the user to be yes here, okay? And the action that's tied to that here is what this drag is here. So let's try this. Let's test this out. Connor is my name. What safety requirements do I need to be aware of? Here are the main safety requirements to be aware of. Wear appropriate protective equipment like hard hat, safety vest, eye protection. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, do you have any additional questions? Okay, so now we've queried the knowledge base prompt on our initial question. We're now asking, do you have any additional questions? If I type yes, you can see it's updating in real time on the left-hand side in the designer as we go through this. Great. What is your question? What uniform do I need to wear? The uniform requirements are street and maintenance personnel wear blue jeans and a uniform shirt with the city logo and name tag. Safety vest must be worn when working in the field. Do you have any additional questions? So this worked successfully. So what happened is we initially asked the question about safety requirements, which happened here in the knowledge base. Then it pushes us into the question iteration block. Do you have any additional questions? Yes, I do. Great, what is your question? And I ask, what uniform do I need to wear? Which is going to override the variable user question here. And then I'm going to come back into knowledge base prompt here, which executes this command, this prompt here, which is, this is user question, go find it into the knowledge base, and it's going to come back into this flow. So even though we've asked two questions, we're now sitting back in question iteration block here. So now we need to set up the other two options here, which no, if you have no additional questions, you can just say, great, let me know if you need to chat again. I hope you have a great day. Enter. We could name this goodbye block. And we can end this by going to, where is it? Here we go. In actions, there's end. Okay. So the assistant will end the active state here. We know that if they did not have any other questions, they don't need to talk to us anymore. So this is kind of a force end here. Instead of you just being left open in a path here, this is an intended end of the conversation here, which was good. And put this goodbye block here. Now let's talk about fallback. You noticed that when I typed in this chat, in this test, do you have an additional question? I typed in the exact word, Y-E-S, yes. Okay. So it was very easy to match that intent that I had an additional question. What if instead of saying yes, or instead of saying no, I just asked a question immediately, okay? That is not going to match with a yes intent or a no intent, okay? And what it's going to do, if it matches with none of these options here, because you can add 10, 12, 15, 20 different intents depending on what you're trying to do here. If it matches none of them, it goes to the fallback state. So when it does this, for our purposes here, for what we've done, somebody has typed a question into the chatbot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall back, I'm going to set a variable here, which is going to set user question. We're going to apply this to the variable user question. We're going to set the variable user question, and the value is going to be last utterance. Okay. And the reason that we do this is I'm going to take this and also connect it back to the knowledge base prompt. And we're going to drag these lines here to clean this up. That way we understand what's going on. Man, there we go. I'm going to change this color just like I did to red. And trying to clean this up a little bit here, but you can see them merging back to the knowledge base here. And this way, I can do fallback set user question. That way, if I immediately type a question here, I'm just going to queue the knowledge base. Let's test this, see if it works. Hello, I'm an internal documentation bot. What is your name? Connor. Nice to meet you, Connor. What question do you have about internal documentations? What safety gear do I need to wear? I mistyped wear there. Let's see if it picks it up in the knowledge base. Yes. Here are the main safety gear that you need to wear. Do you have any additional questions, right? So let's test no first. No. Great. Let me know if you need to chat again. I hope you have a great day. We reached the last connection step. Try again. Let's try it again. Go back to our test. Start test from here. What is your name? Connor. Nice to meet you. What safety requirements should I be aware of? Here's some key safety requirements to be aware of. Yep. Do you have any additional questions? All right. So we tested yes. We tested no. Let's test a straight question. Okay. What uniform do I need to wear? Standard operating procedures specify uniforms as follows. Street and maintenance personnel should wear blue jeans and uniform shirt. Boom. Do you have any additional questions? So it worked here, okay? Our fallback executed. It overrode the user question like we wanted it to, and it queried the knowledge base prompt again, okay? So this is how you basically start to spider web out your logic for your chat design here based on what you're trying to do. And basically what we want to do here is we want to continuously query the knowledge base prompt over and over again by going through the various different ways that we can go about this. So that's really it for this chatbot. We now have a working chatbot where we can query a single PDF, and this took what, 20 minutes? So not too bad. So if we look, one more thing I want to show you on the left-hand side here, if we go to integration, okay, VoiceFlow has the code that you can embed right into your site in order to get this little widget here, just like we saw with the VoiceFlow icon back on the dashboard here. This will pop up and it will be your chatbot here. We can change the name of our chatbots here. We can change some of the CSS and how it looks on the page. Also change the color of the icon, starting, if we click and slide this bar here, we're going to get a neon green for our buttons, and the header over here. We can change the avatar here and upload an image. That way it's not just the VoiceFlow icon. This is how you build a no-code, low-code AI assistant / chatbot. Obviously we kept things very, very elementary here for our first go, because I think the best way to do this is to start to build these out yourself and get into this designer and try the different actions and connect various paths, because there's a lot of things that you can do here in VoiceFlow, and we're really just scratching the surface. Hope that you found this informational. Talk to you soon. Thanks.